Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be my Avatar The Last Airbender fan commentary track for Avatar Book 2, Chapter 7, Zuko Alone. So yeah, continue to send in suggestions in the comments and so on about other episodes you want me to do commentary tracks for, both for Avatar and also for Korra, and I'll keep in mind everything that people have said on previous videos as well. But yeah, let's get straight into, I suppose, the instructions for how you sync up your copy of the episode with this commentary track. So I'm going to stop speaking as part of this introduction in a little bit. There'll be about a 10-second pause, and then when I start speaking again, that's when we'll be into the commentary. That's when I'll press play. It's when you should press play as well. So you should definitely have your copy of the episode ready to go, whether that be DVD, Blu-ray, online stream, whatever. You should have your copy of the episode ready to press play, including the sort of introduction to the episode as well, when I stop speaking. So I'm going to stop speaking now in just a second. 10-second pause. When I start speaking again, I'll hit play, you hit play. That's how we sync up. So yeah, I'm going to stop speaking now. Okay, so here we are with 207 Zuko Alone. Definitely one of my favorite episodes. It's in my top tier in my episode rankings. I think I specifically have it rated at my 13th favorite episode. So there's a few ahead of it, but it's still very, very high on my list. If you want to see my full list, I have a link to my video where I went over my full 61 episode rankings for Avatar in the description. But yeah, this episode is really good. It's Zuko on his own, so you get a big character focus on him. The backstory is great. And then especially given that we now have the context of the Search comic, the second Avatar comic series that came out, that adds so much specifically to this episode, because most of the kind of key reveals from that book are meant to explain some of the more mysterious and vague aspects of this episode, specifically with the backstory bits. We get to sort of meet Ursa for the first time here, but that comic is, I think, what truly properly characterizes Ursa in the way that she goes from being just Zuko's mom to actually being a character of her own. So the full story of the Search, I think, is really needed to understand Ursa properly as a character. But yeah, it's a strong episode here. It's Zuko continuing his journey on his own, away from Iroh. You know, him just encountering things and people along the way that, you know, add to his understanding of the world, and how, like, what the Fire Nation have done, their part in the war, how the Earth Kingdom people are dealing with that, and that, especially like Song from the Cave of Two Lovers. You know, you definitely can tell, like, that hit him to a degree of just the cruelty of the Fire Nation, but you know, here he is getting to see, I suppose, the cruelty of some parts of the Earth Kingdom as well, in part because of the Fire Nation as well. That's Ying and Ton. Ying, of course, will give birth to Hope in this Serpent's Pass episode in a few episodes' time, and they appear in the background of a few other scenes. Another great reference here. The field that Zuko's walking through here seems to be the same field that Wan actually dies in from Beginnings. Those Earth discs seem to be the remnants of that battle that happened between the different factions of humanity at the end of Wan's life. The different, like, kind of early nations basically fighting. It's led to Wan's death. Very cool reference if that is what it's meant to be. Zuko, of course, they're remembering the last time he saw his mother was her going away, putting the hood up and leaving, and going into banishment, basically, we assume. But again, like, that's the mystery. Like, until the Search, we don't fully know what happened. Ozai and, like, the invasion more or less reveals that she basically is still alive, but we don't know the full story, of course, until the Search. There here is Gao and the other kind of Earth Kingdom soldiers, militia, whatever way you want to call them. There's some vagueness around this of, like, are they actually Earth Kingdom soldiers? Are they militia that's just sort of related to the Earth Kingdom military? Or you can almost interpret some of the dialogue as being like, are these just sort of thugs who have Earth Kingdom like uniforms and are just sort of acting like they're in charge when they're not really, and no one has the power to oppose them? I think they are meant to be official to a degree, but maybe not full Earth Kingdom soldiers, hence why, they're not doing things in the right way at all. They are so corrupt in what they do here in terms of their control over this small town. As we see over the course of the episode, the actions of Gao and these guys really just shows that they're not really fit to be, true soldiers of the Earth Kingdom. But it's this sort of stuff that makes it very realistic of like, of course there's corrupt people on all sides of this. Not every Earth Kingdom soldier is going to be this like person fighting the good fight. You have more kind of cowardly characters like Gao, who, just protects this small town, quote unquote. And laughs at the people on the front lines actually getting hurt and injured, as is a plot point in this episode. But here is Lee. There's an interesting bond that develops between these two. Of course, in an episode where we sort of flash back to Zuko and his sort of dynamic with like Azula and his family, here he is getting to sort of almost be that older brother figure to Lee, and Lee wanting an older brother figure since his own brother is out at war. Sensu, and yeah, the whole family here, Gansu, Seila, Sensu, and Lee, is pretty interesting. It's nice to just get a look at just a normal Earth Kingdom family who get what's going on here, just trying to stay low and undercover. Like, he completely gets why, it's a man, like a man can hold on to his identity. Like, you don't need to pry into it, he can keep it a secret if he wants. The real soldiers off fighting the war, they don't really think very highly of them, to the point where they barely consider them soldiers. That he's offered to stay for a meal, he doesn't want to accept it, to impose on them. But again, you see, Seila's used to this, of just like, okay, do some work, then have some food. Like, he wants to earn it, she gets that, and that's the kind of culture that they have here. Earth Kingdom is always about, surviving through everything. That's the whole point of earthbending philosophy of the people as well. Lee wanting to really pry into Zuko because he sort of sees him as like almost a replacement for his brother. Exact wrong question. How'd you get the scar? Yeah, of course. Yeah, a man's past is his business. I kind of like how stoic Gansu is. And yeah, first bit of backstory here. The introduction of Ursa, as well as the turtle ducks. Very cool animal, one of the cutest in the Avatar universe, of course. And the whole thing here is that we also learn about some of Azula's behavior. Getting to see it here, I think you really realize that the reason she is the way she is isn't just because, like, Ozai primarily raised her. I think you get the impression she was heading that way anyway. It is just her personality to sort of be manipulative and sort of cruel and sort of not very understanding of other people's feelings. That's just the way she is. That's what moms are like. If you mess with their babies, they'll bite back. And that's very fitting given what the search reveals about what Ursa actually did, her involvement in everything that happened, of just like, what did Ursa do to protect Zuko? And she supplied the poison to Ozai to kill Azula. She didn't do it herself, but she accepted that banishment and having to leave, giving him the method to do it, all to, protect Zuko. So very fitting stuff here, across even the comics as well. And you see even Azula here being sort of manipulative with Ursa, of just like, acting, like, oh, come on, we need to spend time together, where she doesn't really feel that way. She more is just like, Zuko doesn't want to play with us, so let's force Mom into making him join us. And again, it's just these little things showing her manipulative personality. And just messing with Zuko here, of just like, oh, there's a little bit of a dynamic going on between Mai and Zuko. Zuko wants to protect Mai. And of course, big awkwardness, and just like Zuko being like, yeah, girls, why would I ever want to play with them? And yeah, this explains why, like, Mai and Ty Lee, like, Ty Lee and Azula know about like the May's attraction to Zuko in like 203 earlier on. And yeah, like Iroh as well in the past. We get to see our first look at sort of quote unquote evil Iroh before he, I suppose, fully understands his path. Still on the side of the Fire Nation, still a general, leading the siege, talking about burning down Ba Sing Se. The misinterpretation of his vision, of course. He would take it, but not for the Fire Nation, take it back from the Fire Nation is the truth about it. And like we know that like that Iroh ultimately, from all the stuff we know, was never truly evil, was never truly like Azulon Sozin. There was maybe an opportunity for him to head down that path, but he was always different than his brother. He was always different than his father and grandfather, as evidenced by what Azula is going to say now in a second. And yeah, Ursa has a very good relationship with Iroh. Basically, Iroh and her children are the only things that really make Ursa happy during her time in the Fire Nation, because of course the search reveals. But anyway, there's a tea-loving kookiness that even back then, Azula views Iroh as just being this kind of oddball character who's like goofy and she doesn't respect, which informs why she always underestimates Iroh. Basically, anytime she comes across him, she can't see that like he is basically one of the most powerful firebenders in the world. Because all she can see is the tea and the goofy aspects of him. But yeah, the thing that this episode doesn't really cover is like, oh yeah, how did this relationship, Ursa and Ozai, even happen? Is it arranged or what? And that's why I like the search so much in terms of explaining that like it was arranged. It was like this forced situation of like if Ursa had refused, her family would have been at risk, Ikem, her previous lover, would have been at risk, and it would have created so many problems. And it gets into the idea of like what Ursa said earlier on about, you know, what a mother will do to protect her children, but also just Ursa's character of always, in a way, needing to sacrifice herself to help other people. So she had to sacrifice her love for Ikem to sort of save her parents and Ikem, and, you know, go off with Ozai and become married. And you get that amazing moment in the search where the second they're married, Ozai's like, you're never going to see your parents again. You're just stuck here. They're never coming over. You'll never see them again. You're mine now. How possessive he is, and immediately how sort of abusive this relationship actually is. Informing why the only good thing in Ursa's life at this point is her children, and the fact that Iroh was always a beacon of light during her time in the Fire Nation. Big reveal there, though. Sensu has been captured along with the other members of his battalion. And yeah, this just speaks to like the meanness, in a way, of this group. It's one thing them coming to reveal that this happened. The family deserves to know. It's another thing sort of gloating about it in front of them, when they're also in the military and are not on the front lines and are sort of safe, while the people on the front lines are at risk of getting captured and, you know, sent off in alternate uniform to be hurt by your fellow soldiers and so on. And then the contrast here of the family hears bad news about someone, so does Zuko in the past. The death of Liu Ten here at the siege of Ba Sing Se, and what that leads to for Iroh, of course, and his change in perspective. He's sort of away from the Fire Nation for a while in the aftermath of all of this, and so on. And yeah, the father's going to go to try and get Sensu back. Zuko leaves the knife with Lee. I love this joke here. Read the inscription. Made in Earth Kingdom. No, the other one. Never give up without a fight. Very fitting for Zuko, an Earth Kingdom sort of, philosophy in a way, applied to Zuko. It really defines sort of who he is. He's never been talented, but he fights, he never gives up, and that's where his strength now currently comes from. Also, the fact that he was given a knife sort of informs why he would go on to sort of learn the way of the sword, to have some skills, given that he wasn't particularly talented at firebending at this point in his life. Explaining why he's sort of a very talented swordsman, and he's only now sort of developing into being a very talented firebender. But yeah, Zuko understanding of what Iroh's going through, but Azula not so much. She's always underestimated Iroh, and now we see that she just really doesn't care. She doesn't care about her grandfather either. And you can see like Ursa's being sort of harsh here on Azula, but I think rightfully so. Of like how young she is and the things she's saying, that's not particularly great. Obviously, like Ozai, Azula being Ozai's favorite doesn't help, but you see that she's turning out that way anyway. And here is like Ozai coming in, basically like, let me show off how impressive my child is. All to sort of lead up to when they get one-on-one, what he asks of Azula. And he thinks the show from Azula of like how impressive she is. Interestingly, she has orange fire back then in the past, highlighting that as she grows into being a more talented bender and gets older, her fire, she's become so powerful that she can actually have the fire be blue, be more energetic and powerful while still maintaining control over it. It's never directly explained or really touched upon at all why she has blue fire, but that's clearly the explanation you're meant to have based on the fact that they show her in the past as having only the typical fire. And then of course Zuko kind of learns to match this by sort of learning the true way of firebending from the dragons, which is sort of, quote unquote, dragon fire being just as even of a match for blue fire. Keeps fighting even though it's hard. The inscription on the knife all fits together. Ozai not caring about Zuko, but caring about Azula. And so Ursa having to make up for that difference. And here we go. Not a lot of tact from Ozai in this situation. Asking so soon changed the birthright to me. Given that like he Ozai must know his brother well enough to know that like he's going to stay away for a while. This probably will deeply affect him. If I ask in maybe a few weeks or even a few months, maybe then it will go differently. But asking so quickly, it's his power hungriness getting way ahead of him. And of course, he gets rightfully punished by Azula for asking something at such a terrible time. And of course, Azula and Zuko overhear this. And yeah, Azulan's going to punish Ozai, highlighting that Azulan was just like Sozin, who was just like Ozai, the evil Fire Lords, basically. Azula obviously stuck around to hear what the punishment is, and it's going to be that, you have to kill your firstborn just like Iroh lost his. You must know the pain. And just the fact that that's the punishment from a father to his own son is to basically kill one of my grandchildren. It's like, what? This is this crazy family, and that's the way things have gone since Sozin like lost it, I suppose, in pursuit of power. And this is where Ursa overhears about this punishment. And as she drags Azula off, this is where the comic picks up. And Ursa finds out about what Azula found out, which prompts her to then go to Ozai and propose the deal. That the only way they're going to get out of this, basically, is effectively if they both conspire together to kill Azulan, meaning that the punishment doesn't actually need to happen. So she offers the idea of this kind of traceless, colorless, odorless poison that she knows because her mother was a herbalist. Ursa knows it too. She gives that off to Ozai. He does the job, and in exchange, Ursa has to leave with the idea that the kids are basically the sort of the kind of proof in all of this of just like, don't come back. I won't hurt the kids so long as you stay away. But that's the way it has to be. Ursa banished, not able to see the kids again. That's the entire dynamic that goes on. So the traitorous things that I think, or treasonous things that Ozai talks about in the invasion is submitting the poison. But anyway, Lee has been taken. Zuko going to get him back? Not soldiers, bullies. Freeloaders, great word to describe them. Yeah, cowards. And he gets it. And here we go. We've been waiting for this the entire episode. Boom. Sends one guy sliding multiple meters away with just the bottom of his sword. And it just highlights the skill here. He doesn't even draw a sword again. Just takes it hand to hand. Great animation on this section. Yeah, the kick. And that guy just runs off. And then, here it is, the actual boss here. Gao, double Thor hammers here, double Mjolnirs, but earthbending. And initially it's not too impressive, just like, most earthbenders can do that with just their hands and legs. But I suppose it's the velocity, basically, here that's the case. Like, him hitting them with the hammer sends them flying so quickly at Zuko. I like the joke here with the left and right sword. And they like him now. All of his actions up to now have led to the villagers supporting him completely. And how it changes completely once they find out who it is. This is where you start to see the momentum here of just the transitioning the double hammers into each other, getting really, really powerful, the kind of momentum of the attacks. The huge, big, uppercut. That's like a Death of Jet kind of level move there. So Zuko takes a big hit there. Here's the big goodbye scene. The Search comic expands on this and also shows that, Ursa went to visit Azula as well. She didn't just go to Zuko. But of course Zuko would only remember her going to him. Never forget who you are. Very, very significant, because ultimately, in Nightmares and Daydreams, when Zuko finally realizes he's not meant to be with Ozai and the Fire Nation, what does he realize? I was the person that my father wanted to be, but I wasn't me. I know who I am. But here he is making this sort of mistake of thinking that who he is the person Ozai wants him to be. The Prince of the Fire Nation. Restore your honor, come back, capture the Avatar, and you'll be back in my books. You'll have made amends for, the disrespect at that war meeting. Yeah. Interesting he mentions his mother first. And you see it's just after all of this he comes out and proclaims this to everyone. He doesn't just reveal he's a firebender, he feels the need to go and just say that he's the prince. And some people do know the story. And they're like, no, you're not. You were burned by your family, disowned. He tries to go back to the previous good dynamic he had with the family, but they want none of it, all because they know who he is. Highlighting again what the Fire Nation have done. They have fundamentally ruined relations between anyone from the Fire Nation and the Earth Kingdom, regardless of previous actions. Otherwise, Zuko's been a hero this entire episode, but just an immediate turn of things. And here he is finding that, his mother's gone. And Azulan's dead. The deal between Ozai and Ursa has happened at this point. And now the one person he had looking out for him, really, is gone. And no response whatsoever. Because the other part of the search that is so well done, I'll say it in a second. Battle of Garside, love to know about that. Houston provinces. Yep. Husband of Isla. So that's a name that we know that they never include on any of the official family trees for the most part. They leave it out oddly at certain times, even though we know the whole situation. But yeah. The other thing the search reveals to us is basically why Ozai just has no time for Zuko whatsoever. That if with some training he could be not as good as Azula, but there and thereabouts. It's because of Ursa trying to sort of defy Ozai and get some sense of freedom in her life. obviously, created this situation to try and get back at Ozai by basically making out that Zuko's not your son, it's Ikam, my previous lover, he's the father of Zuko. Of course, Iroh knew this, but just because Ursa tried something, he basically says that, okay, if that's the way you want it, I'll treat him as if he basically wasn't mine. I'll treat him as if he was this person. And that's why Ozai does it, just to spite Ursa. Even though he doesn't have to with Ursa banished, that's why he continues to do this. And it just speaks to the character that Ozai actually is deep down. He's just this spiteful, power-hungry character. And it's fine, he doesn't need to be the most detailed character, because we have so many other detailed characters, but just them committing to Ozai is a terrible person because of everything he did to Zuko, Ursa, and I suppose in many ways what he kind of has done to Azula without her really understanding how bad what he's done to her actually is. But that's the obviously episode coming to an end just there. It is really well done. It's him learning stuff on his own, remembering events from his past, and sort of almost misinterpreting the advice that he's been given by his mother, and feeling that okay, I've made progress, and instead of the change that he sort of needs to make, he makes the complete opposite of no, who I am is the Prince of the Fire Nation. I will get my honor back and be at the right hand side of my father. I'll go back, it'll all work out. And it's just this complicated situation he has of does he go down that path, or does he stick to the path that he's on right now? And right now he still continues to be the Avatar is what gives him hope. That's what drives him forward, that he can get back to the way things were. Because I suppose at this point he's kind of realizing in a way the realism of the situation of the Fire Nation are in the ascendancy. Maybe it's easier to do it this way than to try and turn against the Fire Nation completely and do what he eventually ends up doing. But still, there's a lot of depth in this episode, just with learning how close he was to Ursa, what a loss it was to not have her around by the end of the episode. Of just that scene of Azula teasing him about the knife, and just without Ursa there's going to be so many situations where there's no one to look out for him at all. But the significance, of course, is that when Iroh eventually does return to the royal family, he does begin to give Zuko the attention and focus that he needs, of course, and that's where their great relationship comes from. In part, in a way, Zuko being kind of the replacement in a way for Liu Tan, but it being this really important dynamic to helping Zuko become the person who can change the legacy of the Fire Nation going forward. So I love the whole Fire Nation royal family stuff in this episode. It really comes together nicely. You get this great backstory revealing to us character elements about Ursa, about Iroh, Azula in the past, Zuko when he was younger, and it all works to me perfectly well together. I agree, it is one of the better episodes of the series. I'd struggle to place it within my top 10, or as being my absolute favorite episode, just because I think there are stronger episodes. There are moments where there are stronger clear-cut character moments, whereas for Zuko at this point in time it is just a step on the journey, presenting some important information, but the key moments will come later. But that's the commentary track. In the comments, let me know what other episodes of Avatar and Korra you want me to do commentary tracks for. But that's been the video. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on Zuko Alone yourself. But thanks for watching, and bye.